Donald Trump documents seized at Mar-a-Lago outside review and special master. Washington, the ruling from a panel of a federal appeals court that ordered the outside review of documents seized by the FBI from former President Donald Trump's Florida resort went into effect on Thursday, and Trump chose not to appeal the decision. As a result, the outside review of documents will officially come to an end. A panel consisting of 3 judges from the United States, a federal district court judge, made a mistake when she appointed an outside arbiter, also known as a special master, to review the approximately 13,000 records that were retrieved by the FBI when it carried out a search warrant at Mar-a-Lago on August 8. This decision was reached by the Court of Appeals for the 11th Circuit in a unanimous decision last week. The documents were brought with the former president from the White House to his property in South Florida at the end of his term as president. The former president was the one who requested the appointment of the special master. Federal prosecutors have revealed in court filings that approximately 100 of those records were marked as classified. Investigators from the Justice Department were not allowed to use the unclassified files for their inquiry into how Trump handled sensitive government records and whether or not there was probable obstruction of that probe. However, the judgment handed down by the 11th Circuit overturned the injunction that had been imposed by the U.S. In September, District Judge Aileen Cannon granted investigators access to the batch of unclassified records that the FBI had taken. Trump spokesperson Stephen Chung stated that the former president will continue to fight against weaponization of law enforcement and pursue appropriate legal avenues to obtain the items that were brazenly and illegally seized from his home during the Biden regime's unconstitutional raid. Chung also stated that Trump will pursue appropriate legal avenues to obtain the items that were brazenly and illegally seized from his home during the Biden regime's An earlier decision from a different panel of the 11th Circuit allowed investigators to regain access to the batch of 103 documents with classification markings and kept them off limits to the special master for the review. This decision was made after the investigators appealed the original decision. The appeals court panel stated that its requirement will not go into effect for another week, giving President Trump until Thursday to seek an emergency stay of the ruling, ask the full 11th Circuit to rehear the issue, or appeal to the highest court in the United States. Supreme Court. The clerk of the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals sent a letter to the federal district court in Miami late Thursday afternoon, notifying the court that the mandate had taken effect. This marked the end of the protracted legal battle that had been sparked by President Trump's request that a special master review the records. The special master from the United States by the 16th of December, District Judge Raymond Dearie was expected to have completed his review of the confiscated documents. The decision reached by the 3-judge panel, which consisted of Chief Judge William Pryor and Judges Britt Grant and Andrew Brasher, was a significant victory for the Justice Department, which has been investigating Trump's handling of sensitive government records for several months. The decision was reached by the panel after Chief Judge William Pryor presided over the hearing. George W. Bush, who served as president before Donald Trump, made the appointment for Pryor, while Trump made the appointments for Grant and Brasher. The investigation into the retention of sensitive government documents at Mar-a-Lago and the investigation into efforts to interfere with the transfer of power after the 2020 presidential election will both be overseen by a special counsel named Jack Smith, who was appointed by Attorney General Merrick Garland 1 month ago. Smith will be in charge of both investigations at the Justice Department. Late in August, Trump asked Cannon to appoint a special master to vet the materials taken from Mar-a-Lago, and she named Dearie, a semi-retired judge in Brooklyn. Dearie was tasked with reviewing the documents to determine whether or not any of them could be subject to claims of executive privilege or attorney-client privilege. Lawyers from the Department of Justice were opposed to the appointment of the special master. They argued in documents submitted to Cannon and then the 11th Circuit that President Trump was not permitted to assert executive privilege in order to prevent the review of documents from the executive branch by the executive branch itself. However, the legal team representing the former president argued to the 11th Circuit that President Trump, while he was still in office, designated the papers he carried to Mar-a-Lago as personal, which is a designation that is permissible under the Presidential Records Act. The panel of the 11th Circuit rejected that argument and pointed out that even if Trump did consider the records to be personal, federal agents were still permitted to collect them in accordance with a search warrant. This was notwithstanding Trump's claim that the materials were personal. By writing that the federal magistrate judge who approved the warrant agreed that probable cause existed to believe that evidence of criminal violations would likely be found at Mar-a-Lago, the appeals court made it abundantly clear that the execution of the warrant was conducted within the bounds of the law. In a second request from the previous month, Trump made it known to Cannon that he wanted the Justice Department to supply him with an unredacted version of the affidavit that detailed the government's reasoning for the search warrant at Mar-a-Lago. In August, a version of the affidavit that had been redacted was made available to the public. After the National Archives and Records Administration retrieved 15 boxes of documents from Mar-a-Lago in January and discovered approximately 150 records with classified markings within them, the Justice Department decided to initiate an investigation into the matter. A total of approximately 300 documents that were marked as classified have been recovered from Mar-a-Lago, including the 103 records that were taken during the search that took place in August. Prosecutors have stated that among these documents were some indicating the highest levels of classification and extremely limited distribution. It has also been suggested by federal lawyers to Deary that Trump may have mixed classified government records with personal stuff from after he left office. According to documents filed with the court, 3 personal correspondence dating from after the end of President Trump's term in office were reportedly jumbled up with 2 classified cover sheets, one of which was labeled secret and the other of which was labeled confidential. According to the prosecutors, the messages came from a religious leader as well as an author and a pollster.